Chapter 11. Carter pulled the straps of his backpack a little tighter. Jane had one too. Both of them were filled with as many jars and bottles as they'd been able to find on the boat. With any luck, all of those containers would be full by the time that they got back. "Remember, stick to the beach," Vanessa called after them. "That way you can't get lost." She was just trying to help, Carter knew, but sometimes Vanessa sounded more like a mom than his mom did. In fact, it had been Jane's idea to walk around the outside of the ring-shaped island if there was fresh water here. It would flow downhill toward the ocean. With any luck, they'd cross paths with it along the way. They headed off in the same direction as the day before, away from the crash site. For the first long stretch of beach, Jane seemed fine. She had even brought her camera and made some of her little videos while they walked. But then the land started to curve off to the right, and they quickly lost sight of the Lucky Star behind them. That's when Jane started getting nervous. "I still think that we should have stuck together," she said, looking back. "Don't worry about it," Carter said. "Vanessa's right. We don't need 4 people to do this." "But please don't tell her I said that." It was supposed to be a joke, though Jane didn't even smile. Instead, she started asking questions. That's what his sister did when she was anxious. She gathered information. "How big do you think the island is?" she said. "I don't know. Maybe 5 miles around," Carter told her. "How long does it take to go a mile?" "It depends. The world record is around 4 minutes. But that's on a track." "Carter, what if we don't find any water?" "We will," he said. "How do you know?" Jane said. Carter stopped walking. "Look around," he told her. "Half this island is green. There has to be some water somewhere." That seemed to satisfy her. Carter even felt a little proud of himself for thinking of it so fast. But then she asked, "How long do you think this is going to take?" That one was trickier. There was no way of knowing, but that seemed like the wrong thing to say. "Well, not too long," he told her, as casually as he could. Then he continued up the beach. It would be several hours before either of them realized just how wrong Carter had been. But by then, it was going to be too late to do anything about it. Vanessa stood on the deck looking at the solar panel like some kind of giant puzzle. The glass surface was in a million pieces, but the inside still looked intact. Maybe Carter was right. Maybe she was crazy to think that she could ever do this. But she had to try. "Help me lift this," she told Buzz. The panel wasn't heavy, but it was big and awkward. So they each took a side and they slid it up onto the cabin roof. And then they climbed up next to it and propped the whole thing against the metal bracket where it had lived before the crash. Hopefully this first part wasn't going to be super complicated. The back of the panel had one white wire and one black wire sticking out of it. Likewise, the electrical box on the mounting bracket had one white wire and one black wire as well, and all of them with exposed copper ends where they had torn free. Vanessa looked across at Buzz. "White to white and black to black, right?" "That makes sense." "I guess," he said. "Like the lamp Dad fixed a few weeks ago?" "Right," she remembered now. Anytime she had seen their father do anything like this, the colors always matched up. As she bent down to take a closer look, Buzz spoke up again, quietly this time. "What do you think Dad's doing right now?" he asked her. Vanessa didn't have to think about that one. "He's looking for us," she said. "I'll bet he and Beth are on some Coast Guard plane right now, flying around up there. When she looked at the sky, the clouds had started to roll in overhead. That was bad news. Even if they did get this panel hooked up correctly, they'd have to wait for the sun to come back before they could test it. Vanessa? Yeah? What happens if they can't find us? I don't know, Buzz, Vanessa told him honestly. We've still got the boat. There's still a bunch of food. Hopefully Jane and Carter are going to find water. We'll just what? Buzz was looking her right in the eye now. He didn't just want to know. She could tell. He needed to know. We'll work it out, she said. Okay? That actually made him smile. That's what Dad would say. She smiled too. Now, come on, let's do this, she said, and she knelt down next to the panel. There wasn't any electricity running on the boat, so there didn't seem to be any danger of getting electrocuted. Still, Vanessa was careful. She used a pair of rubber-handled pliers from the cockpit to twist the two white wires together, nice and tight. And after that, Buzz had to lift the panel up so that she could slide underneath it, like a car mechanic, and do the same thing with the black wire. As soon as it was done, they both ran down to the main cabin. The batteries in the engine compartment looked like they were hooked up, but there was no way of knowing for sure. The console at the nav station still looked just as dead and blank as ever. That was no real surprise. Until the sun came back, they wouldn't know if they'd made any progress here. Even then, they were going to need the satellite phone charger to work. And even then, they'd have to try and figure out where in the world that they were so they'd have something to say if they finally did get a hold of someone. That was a lot of ifs and a lot of maybes, Vanessa knew. A total long shot. But an hour ago, they'd had no chance of reaching the outside world at all. And now they did. And a long shot was way better than no shot at all.